I didn't notice when it started. That's the part that haunts me most. Not the betrayal itself, but how long I lived inside it without knowing. How many years I spent thinking the problem was me, that I was broken, difficult, too much, or not enough. I thought I was losing my mind. Turns out, I was just losing my life. One small, careful piece at a time. And the person holding the knife was the one I trusted most in the world. What I didn't realize was that while I thought she was protecting me, she was quietly deciding who stayed in my life and who disappeared. Her name was Melissa. We met when we were 23, at a marketing firm where we were both underpaid and overworked. She had this laugh that filled entire rooms, this way of making you feel like you were the only person who mattered when she looked at you. Within 3 months, we were inseparable. She knew my coffee order, my childhood wounds, the specific way my mother's voice could make me feel 6 years old again. I knew hers too, or I thought I did. For nearly a decade, she was my person, the one I called when I got promoted, the one who held my hair back when I got food poisoning in Barcelona, the one who sat with me in the hospital waiting room when my dad had his first heart attack, not saying anything, just being there. You don't question someone like that. You don't look for cracks in a foundation that feels solid. But here's what I've learned. The most dangerous betrayals don't announce themselves. They don't arrive with villainous monologues or obvious sabotage. They come disguised as concern, as protection, as love. I'm 34 now. It's been 8 months since I put the pieces together, and I'm still finding new ones. Still realizing moments that felt like comfort were actually surveillance. Still understanding that the person who knew me best used that knowledge like a roadmap to dismantle me. This isn't a story about discovering infidelity or stolen money. This is quieter than that, more insidious. This is about how someone can take your life apart so slowly, so carefully, that you don't realize you're standing in ruins until there's almost nothing left. Let me take you back to where I should have noticed, where the signs were there, glowing, and I walked right past them because I was looking at her face instead of her hands. It was 5 years ago. I had just started dating Michael. He was kind in this understated way, the type of man who remembered you mentioned your favorite author in passing and then surprised you with a signed first edition 3 months later. He made me feel calm, seen, after years of chaotic relationships with men who needed me to be smaller, quieter, more convenient. Michael felt like relief. I remember the first time I introduced them. We met at that Italian place in the West Village, the one with the garden patio that always smelled like basil and warm bread. Melissa arrived 15 minutes late, which was normal for her. She hugged me hard, then turned to Michael with this dazzling smile. "So you're the one," she said, and I felt proud, stupidly, glowingly proud. They got along immediately. She asked him about his work. He was an architect, specialized in sustainable design, and she seemed genuinely interested. She laughed at his jokes. She told him the story about the time I accidentally went to a job interview with my shirt on inside out. It was perfect. I felt like my two worlds were merging beautifully. "I love him," she told me later that night, after he'd gone home and we were sharing a bottle of wine at my apartment. "He's good for you. Stable. You need that." I agreed. I did need that. But here's the thing I didn't notice then. She'd already started asking questions. Small ones. Gentle ones. "Does he text you back quickly? Has he introduced you to his friends yet? What does he say about his ex?" At the time, I thought she was being protective. Now I know she was gathering data. 2 weeks later, she called me crying. She'd just been through a brutal breakup. A guy she'd been seeing for 6 months had ghosted her after she told him she loved him. I spent the entire weekend with her. We watched terrible movies and ate ice cream directly from the carton, and I told her she deserved better, which she did. I believed that completely. "I just feel so stupid," she said, curled up on my couch. "Like I should have seen the signs. Like I'm bad at reading people." "You're not bad at reading people," I said. "He was just a coward." She looked at me with these wet, grateful eyes. "You always know what to say. Michael's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have you," I said back. And I meant it. God, I meant it with everything I had. That's when it started, I think. Or maybe it had always been there, humming underneath everything, and this was just when it became active, when her need became hunger. Over the next few months, Melissa started joining us more. Dinner dates became group dinners. Weekend getaways became trio trips. At first, I didn't mind. I loved that my best friend and my boyfriend got along. It felt like proof that I'd chosen right, that my life was coming together. But Michael started mentioning things I'd never told him, private things, like the fact that I'd been in therapy for anxiety in college, or that I had a complicated relationship with my mother, or that I sometimes felt insecure about my career path, like I should have accomplished more by 30. "How did you know that?" I asked him once, after he brought up the therapy thing at dinner with his friends. He looked confused. "You told me, didn't you?" "No, I don't think I did." "Well, maybe Melissa mentioned it. She was talking about how self-aware you are, how you've done the work to understand yourself. And there it was. So small, so easy to dismiss." "Right," I said. "Maybe. But I hadn't told Melissa she could share that. I'd told her in confidence, years ago, during a particularly hard week. It was mine to share, not hers. I let it go. That's what you do with small things, right? You let them go, except they weren't small. They were seeds, and she was planting them everywhere. The next time I noticed was at Michael's birthday party. I'd spent weeks planning it, rented out a private room at his favorite bar, invited everyone he cared about, ordered a custom cake that referenced an inside joke from our third date. I was nervous. I wanted it to be perfect. Melissa showed up early to help me set up. She'd brought decorations, a playlist, even backup candles in case the ones I bought didn't work. She thought of everything. She always thought of everything. "You're the best," I told her, tying balloons to chairs. "I just want you to look good," she said, smiling. "You care so much about him, it shows." People started arriving, Michael's co-workers, his college friends, his sister. Everyone seemed happy, relaxed. The night was going well. Then, about 2 hours in, I overheard Melissa talking to Michael's sister, Claire, near the bar. "She's just been so stressed lately," Melissa was saying, her voice low, concerned. "I think she's putting a lot of pressure on herself with this relationship. Like she needs it to work because she's worried about her age, you know? I just hope Michael realizes how much she's invested." I froze. Claire nodded sympathetically, glancing over at me. I felt something sharp in my chest. Not quite anger. More like confusion. Betrayal. Adjacent. I pulled Melissa aside later. "What were you talking to Claire about?" "Oh, just girl talk," she said lightly. "Why?" "You told her I was stressed, that I was worried about my age." "Well, aren't you?" She said it so gently, so reasonably. "You've mentioned it before. I was just being honest, but you made it sound like I'm desperate." "I didn't mean it that way at all." She touched my arm. "You're reading into it. I was actually defending you. Claire was asking if you were serious about Michael, and I told her you absolutely were. I was being supportive. I wanted to argue, but the way she said it, the way she looked at me with such innocent concern, made me feel crazy for being upset." "Okay," I said finally. "Sorry, I'm just on edge." "I know," she said, pulling me into a hug. "It's a lot, but you're doing great. He loves you. Everyone can see it." And just like that, I felt better, reassured, guilty for doubting her. That was her gift. She could make you doubt your own reality while convincing you she was the only one telling you the truth. The comments continued. Little observations, gentle warnings. "Michael seemed distant tonight. Did you guys fight? I saw him having lunch with a woman yesterday. I'm sure it's nothing, but I thought you should know. You've been working so much lately. Do you think he feels neglected?" Every single one was delivered with concern, with love, like she was watching out for me. And every single one planted doubt, made me question, made me anxious. I started checking Michael's phone. Not constantly, just occasionally, just to make sure. I started asking him more questions. Where he'd been, who he'd talked to, if he was happy. "Are you okay?" he asked me one night. "You seem, I don't know, different." "I'm fine," I said, but I wasn't. Melissa noticed. Of course she noticed. "You're overthinking things," she told me over coffee. "Michael's a good guy. You just need to relax." "I know. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing my grip." "You're not," she said firmly. "You're just in your head. That's what therapy's for, right? Maybe you should go back." I nodded. She was probably right. She was always right. So I went back to therapy. I told my therapist I was feeling anxious, insecure, like I was sabotaging my relationship. "Why do you think that is?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe I'm scared it's too good to be true. Or maybe someone's making you feel that way." I didn't understand what she meant then. I do now. If this story feels familiar, Quietly support it by liking the video. It helps more women find stories like this. And if you feel comfortable, tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. It reminds me I'm not alone. Michael and I lasted another year, but the cracks had already formed, deep and structural. I'd become someone he didn't recognize, jealous, insecure, constantly needing reassurance. I don't know what happened to you, he said the night he ended things. You used to be so confident, so sure of yourself. Now it's like you're looking for problems that don't exist. I cried. I begged. I promised I'd change. But he was already gone, and I didn't blame him. I wouldn't have wanted to be with me either. Melissa was there, of course. She held me while I sobbed. She brought me food I didn't eat and stayed over for a week to make sure I wasn't alone. He didn't deserve you, she said. You're better off. But I didn't feel better off. I felt ruined. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into a new project, a campaign for a major client that could change the trajectory of my career. I worked late nights, weekends, barely slept. It was the only thing that made sense anymore. I told Melissa about it, about how important it was, how much I needed it to go well. I'm so proud of you, she said. You're finally prioritizing yourself. The presentation was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. I'd rehearsed it dozens of times. I knew it backward and forward. The night before, Melissa called. Can I come over? I'm having a rough night. Tonight. I really need to sleep. The presentation, please. Her voice cracked. I just found out my mum's sick. I don't want to be alone. What was I supposed to say? No? She came over. She cried. We talked until 3 a.m. about her mum's diagnosis, her fear, her guilt about not being closer to her family. I hugged her. I told her it would be okay. I set an alarm for 6, so I'd still have time to prepare. But when 6 came, I could barely keep my eyes open. I was exhausted, disoriented. The presentation was a disaster. I stumbled over words, lost my place, forgot key points. My boss's face said everything. I didn't get the promotion. The client chose another firm. Melissa sent me flowers. I'm so sorry. I know I kept you up. This is my fault. But it wasn't, I told her. Her mum was sick. She needed me. You're too good to me, she said. Except her mum wasn't sick. I found that out 6 months later, accidentally, when I ran into Melissa's mother at a gallery opening, and she mentioned how healthy she'd been feeling lately, how lucky she was to have such good genes. I'm sorry. When were you ill? I asked carefully. Ill? I haven't been sick in years. Why? I made an excuse and left. My hands were shaking. That night, I went through my memories like files in a cabinet, pulling out moments and examining them under different light. The time she'd told me my boss had been talking about replacing me, which made me so paranoid I nearly quit, until I later learned my boss had actually been praising my work. The time she'd mentioned seeing my ex at a bar with someone who looked exactly like me, which sent me spiraling for weeks. The time she'd casually told a room full of people about my miscarriage, something I'd shared with her in private, in grief, something I wasn't ready to discuss publicly. Each time she'd apologized, said she didn't realize, said she was just trying to help, to protect me, to be honest. But what if none of it was accidental? What if it had all been deliberate? I started paying attention, real attention. I noticed how she'd steer conversations away from my successes and toward my struggles, how she'd frame my achievements as luck and my failures as patterns, how she'd bring up my insecurities in group settings, disguised as concern. I just worry about her, she'd say to mutual friends. She takes on so much. I don't think she knows how to be alone. I started noticing who was still in my life and who had drifted away. So many people, friends from college, co-workers I'd been close to, even my cousin, who I used to talk to weekly. I reached out to a few of them, carefully, casually. Why did we stop talking? I asked. The answers varied, but the theme was consistent. You seemed really overwhelmed. I didn't want to add to your stress. Melissa mentioned you were going through a lot. I figured you needed space. I heard you were upset with me about something. I didn't know how to fix it. Every single one had been told something by Melissa. Some version of she's struggling, or she's upset with you, or she needs time alone. She'd isolated me, slowly, methodically. While convincing me she was my only real friend, I felt sick, dizzy, like the ground had disappeared. I confronted her. Not dramatically, I didn't have the energy for drama. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. I need to ask you something, I said. And I need you to be honest. Of course. Always. Why did you tell people I was upset with them when I wasn't? She blinked. What are you talking about? Sarah, Jake, my cousin Renee. You told them I needed space, that I was going through things, but I never said any of that. I was trying to protect you, she said. You were going through a hard time after Michael. I didn't want people bothering you, but I didn't ask you to do that. You didn't have to. That's what best friends do. They protect each other. And your mum, I said, my voice quieter now. You told me she was sick, but she wasn't, was she? Something flickered across her face. Something cold. I don't know what you're implying, but it's really hurtful. I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly. Was your mum sick last year? She had a scare, a cancer scare. It turned out to be nothing, but at the time I was terrified. I'm sorry if I didn't give you the full medical report. It was so smooth, so plausible. If I hadn't talked to her mother myself, I would have believed her. You kept me up all night before the biggest presentation of my career, and it wasn't even true. I needed you, she said, and now her voice had an edge. I'm sorry if my trauma was inconvenient for you. That's when I knew, really knew, because she wasn't defending herself. She was making me the villain. I stood up. I don't think we should be friends anymore. Are you serious right now? She looked genuinely shocked, hurt. After everything I've done for you, after all the times I've been there. Yes, I said. I'm serious. You're going to regret this, she said quietly. When you're alone again, and you have no one, you'll realize what you threw away. Maybe, I said, but I'd rather be alone than lose myself. And I walked out. She sent messages for weeks, long emotional texts about how much she missed me, how confused she was, how I'd misunderstood everything. She told mutual friends I'd changed, that I was pushing everyone away, that she was worried about me. Some people believed her. Some people reached out to me, concerned, but some people didn't. Some people had their own Melissa stories, small moments they'd brushed off, comments that had felt strange but not strange enough to address. We compared notes. We realized we'd all been managed, controlled, kept separate so we wouldn't compare experiences. It's been 8 months now. I've been rebuilding. It's slower than I thought it would be, harder. I've had to relearn who I am without her voice in my head, telling me what I should feel, what I should want, who I should be. I've had to apologize to people, to explain that the distance they felt from me wasn't my choice, that I didn't realize I was being isolated. Some of them understood, some of them didn't. That's okay. I'm dating someone new. His name is Thomas. He's patient with my hesitation, my instinct to second-guess everything. You don't have to tell me everything right away, he said on our 4th date. We have time, and for the first time in years, I believed that. I believed I had time, that I didn't have to perform or prove or protect. I haven't heard from Melissa in 2 months. I blocked her number, her social media, her email. Sometimes I wonder if she knows what she did, if she understands the scope of it, or if, in her mind, she really was just trying to help, just trying to love me the only way she knew how. I don't think I'll ever know, and I'm learning to be okay with that. What I do know is this: the people who love you don't make you smaller. They don't isolate you. They don't weaponize your vulnerabilities or rewrite your reality. Real love doesn't require you to doubt yourself. Real friendship doesn't feel like surveillance. And the person who knows you best shouldn't be the one dismantling you. I didn't know my best friend was the reason my life fell apart, but now I do. And now I'm building something new, something mine, something she can't touch. I'm not angry anymore. Not really. Anger requires energy I don't want to spend on her. I'm just clear. For the first time in a decade, I'm clear. And that, I think, is the quietest kind of power.